I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Wow. Here we are.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time of year. We're right here in West Point, Mississippi, home of Mossy Oak brand camo, the Gamekeeper Studio. Hercules is sitting here looking out over
at the big
us.
deer. Deer season is upon us.
Mac's leaving this afternoon, going to
Yeah,
Nebraska.
where are you going, Mac?
We're going to Nebraska with Heartland Pride Outfitters.
Ah,
Pretty excited.
I bet you are.
Big time. Big time.
Got high expectations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Getting out of the house, got a sick baby.
Oh.
So,
Ooh.
looking forward to it.
Oh, he's a brave man. Yeah.
Well,
So how long are you going to be gone, Mac?
I think I'll be back on the 16th.
Cool. Well, I mean, the reports I've heard is it was kind of hot, I think, and dry on Austin, a lot of them. But I think the weather's changing, so I think you're going to be hitting it pretty good time.
I think so, too. It's going to drop 30 degrees, I think, tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be in the teens and then high 40s.
Y'all going to rattle?
I'm going to try to. You let me borrow your horn, so I'm going to try.
Lucky golden horns. Get ready.
Lanny's sharing his horns.
That's right. It's actually a new pair. I broke the other ones.
Are they synthetic?
Yeah. I'm a synthetic guy, 100%. But they're not the little Ricky Ticky Tabby ones, you know. We got some, we need
Ricky,
some horns.
ticky, tabby ones. I've
And I
never
don't like
heard
to
that.
sound like a little buck if I'm rattling, you know.
You know, that's a book
Ricky, ticky,
Yeah.
tabby. Never heard of that.
or a short story, maybe. Yeah.
It's
So
a
y'all-
mongoose, about a mongoose and a snake.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So y'all are talking about the weather changing. Have y'all? There ought to be ducks on the way right now because Canada is being blanketed by snow, and the Dakotas are about to be blanketed by snow.
I
They're
bet Chris
coming.
Paradise is tearing them up.
That's one of my favorite things, you know, after work, you out on the porch or something and you can hear the geese. It's that time of year when you can hear the geese in the air.
Where's Rob? What kind of geese did I hear the other day? I forgot. Yeah, a bunch of specklebellies flew over my house 2-3 weeks ago, headed north. So
Headed north.
Yeah, that's what crazy. So Rob was telling me that sometimes they'll get so high up, they go too far south, and then they have to come back up north.
They have somebody like you that's leading the.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
No
he
doubt.
overshot his landing a little bit. But
Well, I don't know about all that, but Dudley, what's going on in your world?
Not a whole lot. I just got a text that little Dud sliced his arm open on the playground and is going to need stitches. So,
You
you need to go.
I mean, what can I do? I can't.
Did y'all
I can't do
hunt? Did
stitches.
you make youth season?
We only went once, and we talked about it last week, but he missed one with the crossbow.
Oh yeah,
in Holmes County.
Yeah. Well,
So,
he'll get back on it.
yeah, hopefully this weekend we'll get him stitched up and get back out there.
I didn't even tell my kids it was youth season and got in trouble for it. It was too hot. So we had too much
hot.
work to do around the house. We'll wait on the cold front. But so I was taking them to school Monday. They're like, Dad, when's youth season open? I was like, last weekend.
I don't know, but Richie, I would think you might want to hit the sad horn on that for Lanny.
Yeah.
It was
doing that.
raining and hot. We're gonna get after it.
Shame.
So. That is
Shame.
Oh,
Shame.
what is that?
Yeah,
I don't even know what
the
that
fact
sounds
that
like.
you don't know what that is
Yeah.
is pretty interesting. But
I don't either.
So today we've got some guys sitting here that some of Mississippi's finest
Yes.
from the NDWF and P. I always get that mixed up, but
Yeah, our favorite agent.
yeah, but we've got Marshall McCraw. We've got boy, that seems like that goes a long time. We got Ricky Berry, and then we had this guy before. on
Jake
here.
back in the
Yeah,
house.
Jake, yeah.
That's right.
I swear he looks like a lineman from Mississippi State.
I think that was our most listened to podcast that
It
he was
really
on.
was. It was
Yeah.
huge.
The one where y'all busted up
Busted
the big
100.
turkey
Yeah,
hunt.
they
Yes, sir.
killed hundreds of turkeys. It's crazy.
sir.
It's crazy.
It really was. We enjoyed that one a lot. Now, good to see you again.
Glad to be back.
So, Ricky, never met you before, but we're excited to have you here.
It's good to be here.
And Marshall,
Marshall, he's a local.
yeah, he's like a bad penny. Every time you turn around, there's Marshall.
I have Marshall on speed dial. He hears me all times.
Yeah, one Christmas Eve, Marshall helped me out with a poacher problem that I had.
Nice.
Had to leave during the what's the service on Christmas Eve?
Midnight Mass
Candlelight.
or whatever.
Well, it was the little Christmas Eve. So I had
Everybody
to get up.
lights the candle.
Yeah, had to
that's a good
leave
one.
during the middle of that, and Marshall met me, and it was eye-opening
That's
experience.
nice of you,
Yeah,
Marshall.
glad to
I'd
help.
have made him wait.
Yeah. So that guy took an opportunity, knowing that I would be at Christmas church. on
Man,
Christmas
that's
Eve
kinda
to go
sad.
Try to poach.
Oh, you were at church.
I was at church.
Ah,
Yeah.
And you got a photo or something?
Oh well, and Larry Moore saw the guy going in.
Oh.
And, man, and he said, "What?" And I said, "I know who to call."
Yeah.
Sure did, and that worked out really good.
And you called him during church?
Yes.
Oh, I remember this.
So
Yeah.
I left her. I turned
Excuse
to my
me for a
wife
minute, yeah.
and handed her my candle and said, "I gotta go."
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah,
a great
sure
story.
did. Marshall was it was just very impressive to see how he handled that. So
I appreciate it.
Well, it's
So,
interesting too. I mean, the stuff they have to deal with as wardens too. You know, it's really amazing. Yeah. I mean, because you've told me stories from dump truck drivers to anything else.
Yeah, a lot goes on in the game and fish world.
Yeah, it sure does.
Well, we're gonna talk safety today, and guys, people that are listening, this is an important one.
Yes.
Even if you're an older guy, it's easy sometimes to just take stuff for granted or forget, get in a rut or get in a habit of doing something. So I think safety is a good thing to talk about. They've got some stories about what's happened to other people, and then if you've got a younger person, Dudley, like little Dudley, I would think you'd want them to listen to this.
Sure.
Yeah, no question about it.
So
I mean, because we're out there in the field, you know, everybody's either got a bow or a gun or a weapon of some choice, some kind, you know, and most of us are probably getting in elevated position stands. You know, there's a ton of different stuff that you got to be aware of when you're out there in the field, from boating to gun safety to tree stand safety to how you cross the fence. And on top of that, you know, being courteous, you know, in the field. You talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and how to honor, and honor and be safe when you're out there taking care of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Mac, we're not talking about offering the buddy next to you on a Dove shoot a beer.
No,
We're not talking about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but look, before we get started, boy, I got some looks from the. That was just a joke, guys. Y'all can lighten up a little bit. So, Mac, who is this week? This show is brought to you by who?
Yeah, I mean, talking about safety, I mean, one thing to keep you safe is a Springfield Armory firearm for sure. And I was looking on their website the other day, and I saw that 1911 Ronnie. And it looks like, I mean, it's a two-tone.
Ronin.
Yeah. It's a two-tone finish, 5-inch barrel, 45, 9, and 10 millimeter. I mean, it just looks super cool. The forged barrel. I mean, it's a really, really sharp-looking gun.
The 1911 has got to be, you know.
It's iconic.
It is.
Jinx.
Yeah.
Oh, look at y'all.
So,
I've got an XDS. I love it.
What if you guys had to pick? Would you take 9 millimeter, 10 millimeter, or 45 ACP? If y'all shoot pistols a lot.
Yeah, we currently carry 40 caliber, but we're fixing to swap over to the 9 millimeter.
Yeah, I prefer a 40,
Yeah.
but
How about that?
We don't have whatever they give us, what we have to.
Yeah, that's right. Here it is.
Yeah,
All right,
we
got
can't
it.
be that picky. So, yeah.
So, Mac, guys, y'all can go. What's that website?
It's springfield-armory.com.
There you go. Oh, I'll tell you what, they got some. What you got, Lane?
We forgot blood on the biologic.
Well, we hadn't. No,
Oh, man, not done yet. My bad. I'm jumping around. That's the old ADD again. Look out.
Yeah, but so guys, go check
ADHD.
out Springfield
Ah,
Armory,
definitely.
Springfield-armory.com. And how do you spell the dash there?
DASH.
But you actually just use the symbol.
Thank you,
We-
Dudley.
I need a Mr. Know-It-all right there.
All right, guys. So, look, there's a lot of deer hitting the ground right now. The rut is,
Yes.
I think, is happening up north, or it's about to get happening up north. They tell me, historically, November 13th in the Midwest is the day.
Like peak estrus day.
Yeah, and I can remember that. That's my birthday.
Oh, look
How
at
about
there.
that? So, but I just, ironically, they drop in there. So you're getting up there, Mac.
I think his timing's good.
No, I'm excited.
If you don't kill a giant, I'm going to be disappointed.
I feel pretty good because, I mean, we've got a Steyr firearm, Nosler bullets, and Leopold optics.
What
So,
caliber are you shooting?
7mm 08.
Oh, what a great caliber. Don't you think that's a great caliber?
It really is a good caliber.
You think it's better than the 243?
I do not.
Oh,
I'm a 243
yeah,
fan.
I hear you.
But it's a good one, for sure. It is. All right, so are y'all seeing any blood on the biologic in your world?
I know John Tatum's daughter, I think, killed her
Sure
first
did.
buck, you know, so I wanted to give him a shout out. That's our, John's been here a long time, so he's real active with his kids. So I know they were super proud about that. He unlike me, took his child hunting in the rain and the heat.
Yeah. Old Cranky got a deer.
Oh, Cranky got one too?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, with a crossbow.
Yeah, he's got it filmed and everything.
Nice.
It's a good story.
I have to watch it.
It is. There's some big deer dropping up in the Midwest.
Yeah, and this
so.
weekend is going to be good here, I believe, with that front coming in Saturday. So I think hopefully everybody get your kids out there. And Deer Meat for Dinner is actually coming in. I think he's going to be bow hunting. He's going to be doing some stuff at the store. So hopefully we'll have a little more blood on the biologic next week.
There you go.
I got to say, I'm a little jealous about the people that have a rut in mid-November, whereas ours is during the holidays. I mean, I
love it during the holidays.
I love doing family stuff, but
when you're off, you know.
Well, there's always Christmas parties on the weekends, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And,
You're a social life.
I mean,
Yeah.
Draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't
It's
say,
the
"Oh,
rut.
yeah,
look, it's a
sorry,
rut."
I know
sorry,
it's Christmas,
Grandma,
but the rut
I
only
can't go
happens
to your
once a year,
house.
too,
Yeah,
yeah.
for family Christmas.
Well, that's what nights are for.
That's exactly right.
I mean, speaking of biologic, did y'all see that endurance radish?
Oh, my goodness.
On the table out front?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Dudley's been growing some in the nursery. That thing is unbelievable.
It's 10 inches.
Yeah.
At month growth.
And that's only 4 weeks of growth?
yeah.
Y'all sure about that?
I planted them on September 7th, and they probably came up 4 or 5 days later.
So,
So it's about a month.
wow.
Well, let's think about
No,
that.
that's more than a month.
That's more than a month.
I was
I mean,
doing math.
yeah.
Right, so I think your parents might could go to Heritage. They might could get a little money back, Matthew.
I hope so.
Right, so.
But no,
They're
that
very impressive.
Yeah, the endurance radish. It's we talked about it in the last podcast, but the root portion is a lot denser, so it can last longer into the winter. And the tops put on a lot more foliage.
Yeah, it is a forage radish, and all the radishes that are being planted, I believe, are primarily not forage radishes. They're
Right,
been
and
selected for seed production.
we absolutely love these daikon radishes and how much the deer like them.
Yes,
this
they
is
do love 'em.
a good
yeah.
addition, and they actually put out more tonnage of leaf area.
Yeah, more tons. And we're seeing, the early tests, actually more preference than the daikon radish when they're young. A little bit hard to get them established when it's that way.
Which
but.
is a big thing to say
Yeah.
because there may be. We've always said that the
yeah,
radishes
they're
are maybe
super
the most attractive thing we've ever.
Early on in the last few weeks, everywhere we've planted them, even next to deer radish, we've seen more browse, more utilization than on the other one. So very early on, so.
The drought resistantness is pretty cool too to
Yeah.
see. I mean, the folks that got them in early. I mean, late August, early September. I mean, that's all they had. I mean, that made it through that early planting. So I mean, it's been really cool
This
to
has
see
been
that.
a tough year. I'm looking at you guys. Yeah, it's been so dry. Oh my goodness, this is the worst year since 2007 that I can recall.
Yeah.
Way back in 2000.
Back in the day.
It's crazy that was
2007.
15-ish years ago.
That is true.
So look,
That was 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
let's talk about let's talk what you guys came here to. It makes Ned Lanny nervous to have you guys.
No,
Let me
it
just
doesn't.
go ahead and get
Give
that
me a
out
break.
of the
You're the one nervous. You're stuttering over there. No, but these guys are the coordinators, right, for hunter education and boater education for
right.
the state of Mississippi. So we thought it'd be good to just jump into and talk about some general safety rules since the time is upon us.
Yeah, it is, and guys are fixing to spend a lot of time in the woods, and tree stand safety seems to be something that just every year we hear a story about somebody falling out. And
Yeah, I'm going to jump in there. One of my earliest memories in life is coming. I was too young to actually go with my dad. I wanted to go, but I couldn't. And I remember, I think we went to, I'm sure we went to Walmart or something with my mom and came back, and he was on the couch with a broke ankle, had it elevated and ice on it. So
fell out of a tree.
fell out of a tree stand. That was back in the old, probably, it wasn't even, I don't think AMACR was around back then, but.
Probably a board broke.
Yeah, probably board broke. I think that's, talking to Tony Rossetti, that's, this week at the football field, that's exactly what happened to him too. A board fell out. So, just jumping on in there, obviously it's a big part of it. We've been rehabbing tree stands all week here, just being sure they're good and safe.
Well, we could do a whole podcast without any guests. Just
Yeah, I'll sit here and talk the whole time. So.
What tell us about the tree stand safety?
Yeah, tree stand safety is really important, and the things that Lanny's mentioning is common. My first tree stand, I built it out of wood. I was a kid and just took it out there, does not have safety in mind, hammering some nails and some old scrap lumber and built a tree stand. But that's not safe, and I see that now. And luckily, nothing happened, but it's still common, and you see that. So, we really encourage people to use quality deer stands and the ones that you have in current use to check them on a regular basis. Every year, and don't leave them out in the woods over the summertime. And this time of year is before season starts. If you're a bow hunter, of course, you should have already had that accomplished, and make sure that all your pins are in there in place, and make sure there's no rusty weak spots and stuff like that. And just really encourage people to buy quality stuff, quality deer stands, quality safety harness, things like that matter. But it does kind of get overlooked sometimes. People are so excited. The anticipation of deer season is so big that we're really focused on planting our food plots, the right type of seed, putting our cameras out there, getting our guns zeroed in, practicing with our archery equipment, just all that stuff. And it's good. It should be fun, and it's supposed to be fun. But sometimes safety does get overlooked, and it should be an important element, in that equation to make sure that, hey, I got my safety harness, and even take it to the house and try it on before you hit the woods, at 5 a.m. and before, as you climb that first tree, and practice with it, and kind of just get used to what that feels like, get used to putting it on. Mm-hmm. So, but tree stand safety is it's the most common type of hunting accident in America.
So do you see that when you have to respond to these guys that have fallen, whatever, are they not wearing safety belts most of the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Every one of them is not wearing a safety harness, and usually it's a combination of a bad tree stand that shouldn't be in use. It's in poor condition, and the combination of that without a safety harness results in a serious injury and sometimes a fatality. So.
And most of your accidents are going to be when you're going into the stand, climbing into your stand, or you're coming down. Mm-hmm. That's when you're going to slip. You're going to lose one of your 3 points of contact, and that combined with not wearing a safety harness results in tragedy.
Yeah, the whole lifeline thing is relatively new. Mm-hmm. Used to it was I don't like using the word acceptable, but it seemed acceptable 20-something years ago to use the harness once you get up in the tree. And now it's unacceptable to even leave the ground without being strapped in some kind of way, whether it's a lineman's belt or these, prussics that you slide up as you go. They call them a lifeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use a lifeline exclusively with my safety harness because of what you're speaking of. Just stay connected from the minute your feet leave the ground till I'm done hunting and I come back down. You want to stay connected at all times. That way you can relax and enjoy your hunt and not worry about, a potential fall, or if your tree stand fails while it's supporting your weight. You stay connected is really important.
A climber, you use that. You slide your harness up as you go. Yeah, as you go, and just never unattach.
And be careful when it's cold. More times than not, the ice, even if it's on wood or metal, can be very slippery.
Yeah.
Well, there's just so much can go wrong. It can be, you can be tired, worked all week, get up in the stand and get warm and comfortable, and next thing you know, you're nodding off. Or, and I've done this before. You get so excited that you just kind of forget where you are. Right. Maybe you shoot a deer or something, and you got to. And I'll tell you another thing, and this is, maybe I'm the only one this is happening to, but I'm, getting a little older, and my balance isn't what it used to be.
Yes.
I think that's just as you get older. So, other guys, you just can't do the things that you used to do when you were 22 years old.
Right.
Mac, it'll happen to you, I promise. It's coming. Lanny is probably
it's sinking. I can't do near what I used to do when I was 22. I was practically a tree squirrel back then, but yeah, it is. And then you think about, you just your perception changes as you get older. I think because you have more risk. Obviously, kids, back when I was 22, 23, 24, bow hunting all the time, I was worried about myself, and now you got other things to look after, including your kids and your family and your place. So be safe.
I know all of y'all have a couple of stories, horror stories at that.
I think anybody who's hunted for any amount of time, you've had a close call or a scare.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know I have.
Oh, yeah.
I used to think you couldn't bow hunt unless you were 30 feet up
Me too.
a tree.
Yeah.
But the most common thing I think I've seen in my career is, number one, people aren't wearing a safety harness. But number two is they leave a tree in a stand in a tree for a whole year. And I know one, I think it was last year. I think it was 20. He was 20 feet off the ground, and he said, I got in my stand. When I stood up, it collapsed on me, and he fell straight down, landing on his feet. It pushed his hip 6 inches up into his waist. I think it fractured or shattered both tibias. It was very gruesome to see, but when I was investigating it, it was very obvious that the tree had grown into the stand by the inch. And while it did that, it straightened the hooks out on the strap. Mm-hmm. That's what caused it to fail. And I think if anybody sees something that tragic, and how gruesome and how much pain that gentleman was in, you would think twice about wearing your safety harness and maybe popping the straps on those stands and taking them down and putting them in a barn over the summer.
Yeah,
No doubt about it. My cousin in Lowndes County, I think it was 2 years ago. It's taken him almost a year and a half after falling into that same incident to rehab to just even get back to where he can again. So,
and when most of these accidents occur, I guess you're lucky if you might have a phone that you can get to get help. But some of these guys probably the phone gets shattered, or
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's probably some.
I had one a couple of years ago. It was a fatality. It was a young man from out of state, and it was a homemade tree stand. Like Marshall said, a lot of times we see the homemade stands. They're not up to par where they need to be. It was about a 10-foot ladder stand, just made out of wood. He had it strapped to a pine tree with a ratchet strap. He stood up. We figured he stood up to use the bathroom or something. The stand rolled with him, and he had a 45-70, and the barrel actually impaled into his rib cage, and he ended up bleeding out.
Goodness gracious.
He was able to call his mother and tell her, "Hey, I fell." Of course, by the time she got down there to him, he'd gone. But when you see that type stuff, it just not to paint a gloomy picture, but that boy was 17. He'd come to deer hunt in our state. Sure, he was excited, and people a lot of times they throw safety out the window. They don't think about, I need to do something else besides put this tree stand on this tree, but with a ratchet strap. That's the thing we want to drive home to people. We want people to have fun. We want people to get outdoors. We all hunt. I love it. I'm planning on taking my daughter this weekend. I grew up hunting, and it's easy to forget about the safety aspect of it and how quick things can go wrong. Just little things that you overlook. So that's we appreciate y'all having us here. That is a lot of times we're the bad guys. Game wardens, people don't like game wardens. They see us coming, But if we can write a ticket and it saves somebody's life, hey, I'll do that every day. Because I've had to go to the door, knock on the door, and say, hey, your son or daughter's not coming home because they didn't do some little small safety thing that I could have wrote them a ticket for. They didn't have their hunter's orange on today. I'll write 1,000 tickets and make you mad versus having to go to your mom and dad's house and tell them you're not coming home.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So,
So inherently, hunting is a pretty safe sport compared to other things. But along the same lines, though, I mean, we've got firearms in our hands. We got sharp broadheads on the end of arrows. You're up high. There's just a lot that if you're not paying attention the whole time, things can go wrong.
Yeah, a lot of it is about being prepared. What you just said there is from firearms with the safety harnesses, with life jackets in a boat. If you're duck hunting, just being prepared and thinking about what you need to take with you for that day, that afternoon hunt, whatever it's going to be. And some of that starts with our hunter education classes. They're taught in all 50 states. It's a nationwide curriculum, and it's 9 chapters that covers a lot of topics: conservation, wildlife ID, but it also is heavily focused on safety. And it just tries to drive home the message of, be prepared, think things out. Firearm safety, the 10 Commandments of firearm safety. Wear a safety harness in a tree stand if you're elevated in any kind of tree stand. Practicing your zone of fire principles if you're in a group hunt. That's a common occurrence that we see. Second to tree stand falls is firearm incidents, and sometimes people are hunting as a small group, and they don't honor that zone of fire. They get tunnel vision. A big buck is running through the group, and someone doesn't stop swinging on the game basically with their firearm, and another partner hunter is shot, and you just get so zoned in and focused. So those classes teach that stuff to adults and children, and but we've also learned that a lot of youth hunters, and we're in youth season now in our state and many other states now, but a lot of youth hunters really learn from the adult in their life that's teaching them every day everything from how to hunt, if it's ducks or deer or whatever it is. They'll teach that young person all those aspects of how to look for deer sign, how to hunt the wind, just all hunting things, but it needs to include the safety aspects. If they teach that child, keep your orange vest on, practice your firearm safety, that child will grow up utilizing those skills and pass it on to their children, and is far less likely to be involved in some type of incident. So it's really important that, if you're teaching a child to hunt, include that in that lesson as you take them outdoors.
That reminds me, growing up, my dad, we always had bird dogs, and he quail hunted back when we had quail. And, he would hand me my shotgun for the day. I might have been 12 or 13. And I would see him check it. He'd hand it to me. I was to check it. Even though I just sat there and watched him check it, I'd get in trouble if I didn't check it myself. So, that was something that was instilled in me when I was young. What Marshall's saying, that come from my father. So a lot of the stuff, the traditions as hunters that we learn, that's where we get it from. And I think that's part of our job, whether we're game wardens and we're teaching hunting safety, or you guys and what y'all do, is pass that on, what was handed down to us. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And taking responsibility, you can't assume anything with firearms, and that's what your dad was reinforcing with you. He's like, I check it, but you need to check it too.
Yeah.
It's a big part of it.
So the thing about Hunter Orange, we're a camo company. We love to wear camo. But I'll be the first to say I have had so many experiences with deer and pigs where they had no clue I was in the world when I had an orange vest or orange cap on. They just don't see it. Doesn't seem to bother them at all. So, these young people sometimes like, I don't want to wear orange. I hear it. My daughter, when she was little, I had to make her wear the orange.
I understand.
But guys, I just promise you, you can wear that orange and you can still get away with whatever you need to get away with on deer.
Oh, yeah.
Not turkeys. on deer. But I'll tell you, look, I thought I was kind of smart when I did this, but, and Mac, you might pay attention for Wilkes coming up, but when Jessie was little, she had her own little rifle, and I had a orange sling that was always on that rifle. And my thought process was, when she gets older one day, 15 or 16, wants to go hunting with a boy somewhere, some boy asked her, at least I could guarantee there was one thing that was orange was going to would be there, But still today, that's her lucky sling. But I don't know. That just made sense to me.
Sure.
Because you want those kids, you want those youngers to. You
Safety
got to
first,
have orange.
yeah.
You're going to write them a ticket if they don't have orange.
Yeah, it seems like, and I'll say this, it seems like I've seen folks as a guest that just think it's okay not to wear orange because they're on their private land. Just make a point and say, or lead by example. Put on, if people around you aren't wearing it, wear it. And maybe say something, make it a little bit awkward, because that seems to be, it's not too uncommon.
I think take extras too. That's one thing I always do is I always pack extras.
Yeah, they're cheap, like that Allen brand. You can, just keep it in the packaging. throw it under your seat in your truck, definitely.
So it seems to me that one of the other places we need to make sure that we're extra careful is that kind of at the truck when everybody's either getting their guns out or putting their guns back up. It seems like that's you hear about stories about something happening there.
Yeah, I started my career. I mentioned Holmes County earlier. That's where I started my career. I worked there a couple of years. It was right at dusk. I was getting out of my truck to check a guy. He was coming out of the woods, and that's one thing I wanted to mention too is because I know a lot of people's listening to this, across the country. We see it a lot. People get nervous. They might have not done anything wrong, but when they see us coming, they get nervous.
Oh, yeah.
This is a game.
Look at Bobby right now.
Yeah. So this guy, of course, I was young in my career, and they teach us in the academy. When we're approaching somebody, one first thing to make sure that gun's unloaded. And I didn't do that for whatever reason. So this guy walks up, and I was like, "Hey man, did you have any luck? Did you kill anything? Did you see anything?" And he's automatically just he's shaking, and he had a 30-06 rifle, and it went off, and the round went right between my feet. It blew leaves all over me, and I just froze for a minute. I'm like, I'm all right. I'm like, of course, then I went into full officer mode, and I'm like, "Give me that gun,"
Yeah.
But the guy had not done anything wrong. He was just nervous. He had his license, had his orange on, but it had been so long, and we hear that a lot too. People, they may go several years without being checked by a game warden.
Mm-hmm.
So when they finally see one, they're like, "Oh, it's him! It's a game warden!"
Yeah.
So.
Did I forget something?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So when you get down out of your stand, before you get back, unload your gun. Make it safe. That way, if we happen to be up there, it's already unloaded. But not just for us, but for your safety, for the hunter's safety. Walking back and forth with the truck to the stand, you could trip and fall if that gun's loaded. I tell people, make sure it's unloaded till you get up there and get sit down in position. And before you get out, unload it.
Yeah, that's good
and leave
advice.
it
Best
unloaded.
advice you can have, yeah.
So leaning back toward what Dudley said a minute ago about making it awkward and making other people, having vests. I remember a story. This happened in Alabama, but so a hunter was in a tree, but somebody had put him out, and so that person didn't think they needed to wear any orange because they weren't hunting. And the guy had a brown coat and a white T-shirt, and he walked in at dark to pick up his buddy, and he got shot right in the chest. And I was young when that happened, but that whole white shirt thing is what they said. That's what the guy saw some movement. It was white, got excited and shot. And so, I mean, you got to think about things like that. And that orange would have solved that problem.
Yeah,
for sure.
And of course, clearly identifying your target, which is
yeah, there were a
prime
lot.
target.
Yeah, well, you're
And-
right.
and
a lot went bad
you
there.
don't
but
shoot at something you don't know what it is.
Yeah, obviously. And you would think that would be status quo.
But you got to tell people. I mean, they don't know, especially the new hunters and people that aren't as experienced. So
Yeah, especially during turkey season. We see a lot of hunters get shot during turkey season. And I know I worked a case when I first came on. A guy was full of camo, had cargo pockets, had a Coke bottle in his cargo pocket, and was walking along a creek bank and got shot. And the shooter said what all he saw was that red and thought it was the head of a gobbler. And that's why he shot. Didn't ID his game.
Yeah, you start hearing the leaves rustling and you get excited,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
clearly identify your target.
One time I was, as a guest, invited to go deer hunting, and I got set out at a stand. And this was somewhat recently. And I looked up, and it was just really rickety looking, like y'all had mentioned. It hadn't been checked. And I just made the choice, like, it's not worth it. And so I just hunted on the ground, right underneath the stand, and waited until they came back. And I just politely told them, thanks. I had a great hunt, saw several deer, but just decided to make the choice not to even attempt to climb it. So you can do that.
Sure don't
Yeah.
need to get in it.
Yeah. Man, have you ever fallen out of a tree stand?
Yes, I have.
Wow.
I'm lucky though. I guess, young enough, that it wasn't that bad. But I've fallen out of tree stands. Just been landed right, I guess is the best way to put it. So I've been fortunate, but very aware of it now. Back in the day, even the ratchet straps, like using nylon straps, it just scares me to death now. Even, with metal stands, the rust that can come into them. I like chain on stuff, but that can still get, like you're talking about the tree expander, it can still bend the metal on it too. But I've fallen out, sure have. And fortunate enough that I didn't, or either thick boned enough that it worked out for me. But I would, just so you know, I was trying to hook in one time. We were checking tree stands down in Portland Landing, and climbed up to the lock on and had my head about seat level, and I was going to wrap my harness strap around it, and there was a red wasp nest right there in the seat. Yeah. So I just jumped. It was great till I landed and the carabiner came down and hit me in the top of the head. But so I've been fortunate. But it's happened. We spent a lot of time in trees too. But to your point before, I look at it completely different now. We've been fortunate enough, and we got to go the extra steps to be sure. Plus, I'm getting old too. I can't handle any broken bones.
Double check your knots.
Yes.
Like at camp doing the climbing stuff, they would always reiterate to double check all of your knots and hookups.
Right. And it's a prusik? Is that what it's called? The
A
prusik?
prusik.
Prusik hitch.
It's a friction hitch that you on those lifelines.
Once you get used to it, it's super easy to use. Yep. It's adjustable. Bobby, if you're even getting tired in your tree stand, you can tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, it'll hold you in place.
To make you feel a little better. I feel genuinely safer now, safer than I ever have with these safety harnesses. And the technology that's come along, too. It's not just 3-inch webbing anymore. Yeah. They got it they even got a little bungee cord in some of them.
So do y'all get during the course of a year a lot of calls? Somebody's falling out of a tree stand. Y'all got to go.
We've had so like this, to answer that question, this season that we're currently in, we've had 3 already.
Wow.
2 last weekend, and 1 was a fatality. We hope there won't be more, and that's kind of what our goal is to educate, do hunter safety talks, teach the classes. We've taught, for example, from the start of this year, we've taught 204 hunter ed classes in our state, either through volunteer instructors or through our officers teaching it. Just trying to push that out there, push that message out there. But it still happens, unfortunately, and it's there will likely be more throughout the season. We're only in our archery and youth season right now for deer, but we're on approaching regular gun season, and then duck season is behind that. So that's when it's full blast. Mississippi's a big hunting state, and it's going to be thousands of people, in the field, in the woods, and just the number of people out there increases the odds of those events occurring. So we really want to, get that message out there to people and try every year to spread that awareness. To please wear your orange vest. The orange vest, in my mind, sometimes it's just like defensive driving. It's like watching out for the other guys. Is to let people see you. Wear a safety harness in case you fall. 1,000 things can happen to make a person fall out of a tree stand. It doesn't discriminate who you are. If you're a veteran hunter or if you're a new hunter, it could happen to any of us. So that harness is kind of that safety net, just keeps you in there. But that orange vest is incredibly important. I've hunted public land before, and I was in a climbing stand, for example, and way back there where I would not expect anybody to be, and a squirrel hunter come through, and I had an orange vest on. I was facing he was walking towards me, I was facing him, and he almost never saw me. It's surprising that you would think he would see. He's looking up, but he's just so focused on squirrel hunting, he overlooks my location. I'm wearing an orange vest, and I kind of had to wave at him several times to get his attention, because I could see he was, coming towards me, hadn't seen me yet. But public land, watch out for the other guy, have the orange vest on. It's just a safety thing. Once he saw me, he kind of waved me off, and I kind of waved back at him, and he went his way, and I continued to hunt. So just stuff like that, But even on private land, you can't assume that you're the only person out there. So keeping that orange vest on, I keep mine on all the time. I don't take it off for any reason. There's no reason to take it off. Like you said, it doesn't affect the hunting. But yeah, just certain things that you can do. But it does happen. These incidents continue to happen. So
Well, we all know somebody that's fallen out of a tree.
I mean, we could
everybody.
We could list a whole page
and-
full here.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we
it's,
could.
you know,
There's tons of it.
there's always a bad. There's rarely in. I mean, somebody's going to lose a part of a leg,
Break
or
a
they're
pelvis,
going
it's
to
gonna
be in a
be bad.
wheelchair.
Yeah.
There's just a lot that can happen.
That was a good point you made about the vest. I mean, even if your state says, you know, you can take it off when you get up in the tree or whatever, you can choose to leave it on
Right.
the whole time you're hunting.
That's right.
Another thing, let somebody know where you're going.
Yeah.
That way, if something
Great
does
point.
happen and you can't get to your cell phone, you don't have any service, say 8 o'clock rolls around, you haven't showed back up to camp or your house, they know where to look for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great tip, because that happens a lot.
That's actually a really common scenario that we see in our side. People, you know, some hunters by nature don't want to tell
Yeah.
the next guy where I'm hunting because it's a
Yeah,
secret.
no, that's right.
Yeah.
And we get that. But tell somebody like your wife, your girlfriend, somebody, and you can, and with smartphones, you know, drop a pin and send it to them. You know, text them that pin, because if something does happen, because you never know, it saves a couple hours of a search. And that scenario happens where, like last year, for example, a call that I went on was a hunter had fallen that morning before daylight, no harness on, in a real junky climbing stand. He fell that morning before daylight as he was going up, and the family didn't call until about 7 or 8 o'clock that night. So it took us a couple hours to find him because he didn't tell anybody where he was going. And once we found him, he was in really bad shape. Had to land a helicopter in the field and take him to Memphis to a trauma center. So, I mean, can you imagine laying there all day, can't reach your cell phone, no one knows you're hurt? I mean, he was severely injured. It was a bad deal. But, you know, those key things of don't hunt in a junky deer stand. Make sure it's good quality. Have a safety harness on. Tell somebody where you're going. Those small little pieces of information and things you can do can really make a big difference. So, and that individual did end up passing away from complications later. But it's a sad deal, you know. But tell somebody where you're going. Another small thing will be just use a small flashlight, you know, as you go in and out of the woods in the dark conditions. You know, just for you to see, but also for other hunters that may be around can see you. They don't just shoot at movement or a dark, shadowy figure that they may think is a deer, like you said, and identifying the game. Well, a deer doesn't carry a flashlight, so
Right.
it helps. It helps, you know, helps out there. So
Yeah, those are all good tips. I tell you, when you think about somebody falling like that in the dark and nobody knowing where they are, that is just bad a scenario.
Yeah, think about Tony Rossetti, Bodoc, and Starkville. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have done it and then made it, but then, you know, to their point, quicker you can get in there. I mean, 2 hours is a lot of difference, you know, or that guy's case could have been 10 or 12 hours, you know.
Yeah, more and more people seem to be going deeper into public
Oh, yeah.
land and things these days, thanks to, you know, apps like OnX. And but you know, that just increases your risk, and even more reason to tell a friend or a loved one, at least roughly where you're going.
Oh, yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
may change my plan a little bit, or you know, my route changes some, but
That happens to me often.
I can text, you know, where my truck is going to be parked, and sometimes I'll get the little editing thing and draw like a loop on the photo that I send and say, I'm going to roughly follow this terrain or whatever.
I text Shannon, my wife, you know, when I'm there, I'm here, and then before I get down, I'm coming out. Now, she has called me 2 hours later, said, I thought you was coming out. And I was like, I still am. Just taking my time. But, yeah, to let them know, talk about it.
It's a good thing to let somebody know.
And
I
it
mean,
may not
really
be
is.
a tree stand injury. You may step where a tree
Yeah.
rotted and a big hole in the ground and break your leg or
Yeah, all kind of stuff.
anything. And you're tired, you've been walking all day. You're just increasing the chance of something going wrong.
What other scenarios give you guys a lot of concern? And is there anything around duck hunting that we need
Boating
to touch
has
about?
to be one.
well,
absolutely.
what he just mentioned about you know, on boating, let somebody know where you're going. We had that incident happen maybe 10, 15 years ago right here locally, where a father and son took a boat out during deer season, and they flipped the boat over in Tibby Creek and lost his phone, lost his way of communicating, and we got the 911 call from his wife later that night when I was actually in the Starkville area working a headlighting situation, me and several officers, and we had to stop doing that and go put boats in the water and search for them. And luckily we found them. They had swam to the bank. They just couldn't call anybody. They were hypothermic. It was incredibly cold that night, but luckily they were okay. But the problem with that whole scenario was we didn't know where to start searching. We had to find their truck at the boat ramp to even start taking the next step, say, hey, they are here still. This is where they put the boat in. But the wife had no info other than they went to the river. Well, that could be anywhere, really.
Yeah.
So it took several hours of searching till about 3 a.m., I think, to find them. And luckily they were okay, but just something simple. A small boat, he just bought it, I was told. He flipped it over, had his young son, and I think they had life jackets, and they swam to the bank. So, stuff happens, and
it can happen.
It compounds into a huge problem. You're out there, it's 20 degrees, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's not very fun.
And I think a lot of times people, when they get into the duck hunting, they may have a boat, a pontoon boat, they go out on the lake in the summertime. That's a whole different scenario than being in a duck boat with decoys, a dog, 2 or 3 guys, a shotgun. And they're focused on duck hunting. They're not focused on boating safety. And we've seen that a lot. They still all the requirements are still there. They still got to have their life jackets on. The boat needs to be registered. When you've got a big, heavy, thick coat on, and you got a pair of waders on, shotgun shells probably in your vest, in the pocket of those waders, and you go in the water. And guys just don't wear their life jackets duck hunt a lot, But so
Interesting.
we want to drive that home too. Don't forget about it's one thing to go deer hunting on land or whatever, but when you combine a boat and duck hunting together, that's where the two merge.
Yeah.
You got to remember all the safety aspects.
Yes.
Don't overload your boat.
Yeah.
Boat capacity.
Make multiple
Yeah.
trips.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong
And
with
that that's usually a pre-dawn boat ride,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
cold. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
be aware of those currents. I'm going to tell you, especially duck hunting, on those rivers and those live water situations, because it can get really quick and get bad really quick.
Absolutely. And check your duck blinds. If you got a floating duck blind, make sure it's anchored well. It's not going to capsize one way or
think about
another
that.
when you're getting in or out. We've seen that before.
The heartbreaking part of a hunting accident is there's one falling out of a tree stand. That's usually a lone one person, but a lot of times hunting accidents that involve firearms, it's family members.
Yeah. Or it's at least friends.
Yeah. So it rarely does it seem like it's somebody shooting accidentally shooting somebody that they don't know. It's just it's
They've
always
got some kind of relation to them.
Yeah.
More often than not, I would think.
Yeah.
That's true.
It is true.
Yeah. I'm just trying to relate that to our audience, and it's so easy to become complacent and just drop your guard a little bit. But as we're trying to mentor, it doesn't matter if it's a kid or if it's an older person that
hunter.
maybe you're
That's
taking
right.
it's just we need to take every opportunity we can to make sure we do like Dudley said and set a really good example. Even tell people why we're doing certain
Safety
things.
first. no
Yeah,
doubt about
you
it.
show up at a duck camp and they're all piling in the boats and nobody's throwing a life jacket on. Be that guy. Just
Yeah, you
say,
gotta be that guy sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ran into some guys that were that they were running down hunting on the river, and they probably weren't supposed to be doing this. Maybe they can, but they had come from Arkansas, and I guess they knew. But they had a shell like sideways in their chamber, and so I guess they could load their gun right quick. I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing with that? And they're like, oh, we can be fast. I'm like, you're not even set up to hunt. So, go ahead. I guess the point is, Dudley, don't be afraid to tell somebody before they do something stupid.
right.
You know what I mean?
And, there might be somebody younger in the boat that can learn from that.
Right, yeah. Speak your mind,
by
that's
you
right.
being a good example.
Yeah, and you speaking up, that person, that younger person that you're talking about, Dudley, is that makes an impression.
Right.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and say it.
Say it,
And
buddy.
I'm looking at Hercules when I say
Baby
it.
Hercules over there.
There's no deer's worth.
Absolutely not.
Some
Injury
kind
or
of accident.
somebody getting hurt.
Now Hercules is getting close. I will admit
Whatever.
he's but I mean, it really is at the end of the day.
No, nothing's worth not going home. You know what I mean? It's just not. So.
Y'all got any other good game warden stories you can tell us?
They got a bunch. I know Jake does. He's over.
Jake, look, tell me about you've run through the woods and tackled somebody as big as you are.
No, I've never had to actually. I've never had a physical altercation in my 10 years.
I'd hate
That's
to
good.
No, they see him, and that's it.
We had this happen this year. Another thing is be weather aware. Dove season rolled around, and it was a Saturday, and there was some rain coming in. Our storm was pushing in, but it was still a good ways out. And a guy was duck hunting and got struck by lightning.
Woo!
Blew the stock off the gun. Very lucky he's still alive. He's recovered now. I think he's going to be fine. No aftershock or effects. But it's probably the craziest hunting incident I've ever seen.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's pretty wild right there.
And
Like a lightning rod, holding a lightning rod.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the weather was a good ways out. It was the sun was shining, no wind was blowing, and he still got hit by lightning.
Got him. Golly.
Eesh.
I'm gonna hold my barrel lower
I
than
don't
you,
think
buddy.
Makes you think.
Yeah,
And
make
you-
you
It's
think.
made me think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that.
You gotta,
Flat water.
people are. I mentioned public land earlier, but people are getting more bold and they're using little kayaks and things.
Yeah.
And these new tree saddles, they're great. They're ultralight, but there's a lot of ropes and stuff going everywhere and weird knots. And just test your stuff. As far as putting a kayak in and in the dark and paddling, just make sure you have extra, a really nice life jacket on. If you're using those saddles, which again, they're awesome, but there's a lot of technical stuff to them. Practice with them a lot in your yard and learn your knots, all that good stuff.
Back to
Double
gun
check
safety.
everything.
Yeah.
Shoot the gun and know the gun you're hunting with.
Right.
You don't want to go out there first time ever holding
Yeah.
a gun you've never shot. You don't know where the safety mechanism
Right.
is. You don't know.
And sight the dadgum thing. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you're more comfortable with what you've already shot before.
Right.
Yeah.
And the equipment you use, safety harness and et cetera.
So we've asked this before, but I think it'd probably be appropriate to ask it again. If you guys walk up on somebody hunting, what do y'all want them to do?
Well, the main thing is if guys walking out of the woods, like I mentioned earlier, number one, make sure that gun's unloaded. You as a hunter need to do that.
So if you approach a guy, you want him to.
That's the first thing. That's the first thing I'm gonna. That's the first thing I'm gonna ask before I ask anything. Sir, I'm state game warden. Let's make your gun safe. That's the first thing. We get that out of the way. I don't ever want to have another 30-06 round
I bet not.
go off between my legs. So that's the first thing. We get that out of the way. But it may just be a simple courtesy check.
So
Checking license. Make sure you got your license.
is it okay just to have your license on your phone?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We have our app. You can. I don't carry my wallet in the woods anymore. I've lost it.
Yeah.
Fishing
Same
and
thing.
hunting two different times. And
Yeah, I
so
keep my app pulled up.
That's right. And once you logged into it, if you even if you don't have service, you should still be able to pull it up and show it. Now, if you've gone through the summer and you hadn't logged into our app, you might have to go back in and re-log in before you go. That's a great point.
Yeah.
We see it a lot more common these days.
Yeah.
And they'll list them all. Sportsman, they'll show your hip survey, any stamps you have. It's all there. And
I
if you don't
screenshot
have it,
mine.
you can purchase it.
Yeah, and it's funny how technology. This coming January, I've been with the department 20 years, and the first 10 or so years, 12, it was, check a guy and he'd have his license. Now it's some of the younger kids, and they're whooping out their phones, showing you on their phone. So
Yeah.
it's funny how times have changed. The technology's changed.
It's helped me, the auto renew feature on MDWFP.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to worry about it now. I set it
Yeah.
up, and it tells me, hey, it's coming out, and I'm good to go. And I screenshot mine, too, because often
Yeah.
I'm in places I don't have cell phone service, so I just to have them
yeah.
on there.
So if you approach some guys, they're in a duck blind, you would appreciate them to unload their and stop hunting
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
you're there. So
Absolutely.
let's get this out of the way.
I'm sure y'all got a story about that, pulling up somebody.
Well, sometimes they'll just act like you're not even there.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, I'm here. Just want to check your license real quick. And they just keep fishing or they just keep on hunting. And
I've seen that in the
if they
dove
don't
field.
acknowledge you, you'll go away.
Yeah.
But it's best just stop what you're doing, turn around. If we'll make it. We can tell if you want to make it short and sweet. It'll be short and sweet. But if you want to sit there and have a conversation with us, hey, we're hunters and our fishermen, and we'd love to sit there and talk to you about how you've done this year. And we're not always just out to get you. We love talking to our hunters, and I actually encourage that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marshall, I'm looking at you. Surely you got a good story you can tell us.
Let's see. Well, there was one time here locally where it was a approach of a hunter that was not doing things in a legal manner, and there's some narcotics there and some firearms there, and I was by myself, so I handcuffed the person, and they immediately fainted in the woods.
Oh, wow.
And just kind of fell out. So wasn't a real big deal as far as the violations, but I had to swap it to providing first aid and stop the poaching investigation because the person fainted. And I come to find out later that that's a common occurrence for this person. I didn't know that, but we had just met. And but anyway, that was an unusual contact with with somebody.
It's like a goat, like a fainting goat.
I was
thinking I keep picturing that in my mind.
Yeah. He was okay, and everything worked out for everybody. But that was unusual. So
Yeah, that's an unusual one right there.
What about you, Ricky? You keep smiling over
Yeah,
there. I think you got a handful of stories.
A lot.
There's probably leagues of them in there.
Yeah. One that comes to mind, I don't know why, it's kind of, I work Pickwick Lake a lot where I live in the boating there in the summertime. And I had a guy we were going to check and wrote him a ticket. I don't remember what it was for. But he got mad as we were pulling off and threw a beer can at us. And hit us, and it didn't end well for him. So,
Yeah.
We turned around and went back and boarded the boat. But I don't know, that one just stuck out to me because some of the stuff
He
people
must have
do-
wanted to go to jail.
Yeah. I told somebody the other day, it's funny, a state trooper can write somebody a speeding ticket. They may get a little bit, mad or whatever. But most of the time they're like, yeah, I was speeding. They go pay the fine. Yeah. We can write somebody a ticket, a game and fish violation, and you'd think we'd have slapped the Pope. I mean, people get so, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a pride thing, like they got caught, whatever. But
I think a lot of times, when we encounter somebody, they're getting away from whatever troubles they may have at home or at work, and whether it's fishing or they're hunting in the woods, they get away from that cell phone, and here comes a game warden interrupting, or a conservation officer interrupting their alone time, so to say, and all the troubles come flooding back to them, and here's somebody they can take it out on. I think that's what a lot of times we see, but I would say 95% of the people we encounter are awesome people. I mean, there's a butt head every now and then, but.
Lanny, can you tell the story? Remember our friend that works over?
Which one?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm just going to say his name, Tim Brooks.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story about him confronting some duck hunters over there, and he said, freeze, everybody, and then he was going to walk to them, and they said, hey, don't.
Yeah, I can tell it. I mean, sure. I'll tell
Yeah. It may be a little bit embellished at this point.
Yeah, because I don't even think I think I'm going to be telling somebody the story that told me, but I will sure tell it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So a guy that actually used to work here, a biologist, Tim Brooks is a Corps of Engineers, works for the Corps of Engineers, and he was checking some duck hunters, and he grew up on the waterway. And I'm going to tell you what, this guy knows, seriously, more about what's growing, what's living up and down that waterway. He helped with the restocking eagles as one of his first projects way back when, so we love him to death. But he knows more than anybody that I know probably about that waterway, but he still don't know as much as he thinks he does. I guess is the best way to put it. So anyways, he was having going to check some duck hunters, and he was across the slough from them and said, hey, we're here, we're coming to check. And they said, okay, fine. And he started toward them. They said, hey, you don't want to walk across that slough, it's too deep. And he told them, said, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. I am on the way. And he took a few steps, and nonetheless, nothing was floating but his cap.
That was me last duck season.
Oh, it was?
We had a baited duck hole, and me and another officer went in there and checked it, and the hunters were nice and courteous. They knew they were called. But I was collecting a little bit of evidence, and there was a bag of it was an empty bag of sunflower seeds, and I could see it. And it was about from me to you.
Yeah.
And I had a stick. It looked deep. And I just needed a little bit more, and I took one more step, and I slipped, and I went about, I say shoulder deep.
Yeah.
And it was obviously 30-degree morning. I still had several hours of paperwork to do before I got back home, drenched. Ended up getting sick with a cold the next day.
And a little humiliated.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, they got a big kick out of it. They said when I handed them their paperwork, they said this was worth.
Oh, no.
So,
But I will say, look, everybody y'all approach has a weapon or something of some kind. So y'all just be real courteous to these guys. They spend. I got a lot of respect for y'all because y'all spend an inordinate amount of time, out there in the field researching and looking at this stuff. So.
And y'all are not the bad guys.
No, y'all are wardens. I want to reinforce that. I mean, y'all. I personally think that's why the game laws are written the way they are, because y'all interpret what's going on when you're out in the field. I mean, when somebody's intentionally doing wrong and when they're not. So just be courteous and respectful of what they do, and because they provide a huge service for us all.
Yeah. They really do. I don't think that can be said enough. And along those lines, Mac, I'm going to get to you with a question. I know you got a question, but I'm going to forget this point if I don't.
I got one more too.
I'd also,
Okay.
We got time. So, is there a way? So, let's just say I'm a landowner in your county, Jake. Is there a way you would want me to? And I don't have any problems going on, but would you want me to call you and say, "Hey, Jake, here's a key. If you ever need anything, here's how to get in touch." Do you want that kind of relationship, or?
Absolutely. Our conservation officer is only as good as the public he's serving. Mm-hmm. It's like throwing darts in the dark without the help of the public. I mean, 90% of our cases that we make come from public complaints and allowing us to have a key to your gate to just park our truck behind if we're working something in that area, whether it's night hunting or listening for some roost shooting, just to where we can hide our truck. Yeah. But absolutely, the officer is only as good as the public he's serving, and I've always said that.
Yeah, I want to make sure that before we close this up, and Lanny, you get to, but that you guys can have a chance to voice, hey guys, to the listeners, here's how we'd like you to behave if you're approaching us. We've covered that, but if you're a landowner or in a club, how can guys work with you in other states also so that they can have better experiences?
I just want to say, encourage people to, when they see a violation, call it in right then. So many times I could be at a gas station 2 weeks later, a guy will come up and I saw a spotlighter the other night, I said, what did you call? No. We can't, like Jake said, that's true. 90% of the cases that we make come from the public calling, letting us know. So that is imperative. 1-800-BE-SMART. That is the hotline to our Jackson office, and I know a lot of other states are listening to this, but whatever your local DNR, get that hotline number, call in these poaching things when you see them. As soon as you see them, call them in, because a lot of times it's a time-sensitive thing, whether we'll be able to put a case together or not with it. So,
and I don't know about other states, but 1-800-BE-SMART, it's completely anonymous if you want it to be.
Yeah.
So if that's something holding you back.
And in the state of Mississippi, a lot of times if you don't know the 1-800-BE-SMART, their local sheriff's office can get a hold of us pretty quick. And a lot of times we're out there and we monitor their radio, so we may hear that traffic come across. That call 911. There's a headlighter out here on County Road so and so. A lot of times we'll hear that. We're gone. So just quick as you see the violation, that's what we want people to call it in. Let us know.
That makes sense. Mac, you look like you got a question.
Not really a question, more of a statement, I guess. When I think about the conservation officer, I mean that you're in the woods, you're on the water, you're fishing, you're hunting. I mean, these guys are here for the wildlife and for the safety of the public. And I think if you have that mentality and know that it is for conservation and it is for public safety, I mean, that completely changes. It should change everybody's mindsets on that. I mean, being approached and then thinking about safety. I mean, when we were alligator hunting and those guys pulled up and started shooting at us. I
Yeah,
mean, like,
that's wild.
Like, I mean, that it kind of just it makes me think. I mean, having 2 children, really just be aware of your surroundings, and I mean, you never know what could happen, and just be prepared for it, and being proactive and not reactive. I think, and a lot of and precautions.
Common sense. Use common sense a lot.
Yeah.
That's right.
Lanny, you had a point you wanted to make?
Well, I could probably do it when you the closing comment kind of thing. If you want me to just do it now.
No, but we'll wait till you get to the closing comments. So.
I thought you was finna wrap it up there.
No.
Just when we mark that time code. Actually, mark that time code on this stuff right here. We ain't talking about it.
So, look, I want to look at all 3 of y'all, and I love a good game warden story. It doesn't have to be about safety. If any of y'all got something that you can tell us?
You've literally asked them that like
I know, but
27
I
times.
I want a good game warden story.
Yeah, that's pretty good, I thought.
Crawling through the book, there I.
He's
any almost
he's
catch
an
a guy.
author. He's looking for material for his next book.
Yeah.
Jake, I'm so disappointed at you.
I'm thinking there's a bunch of legends from back in the day before my time, but I guess I haven't worked long enough to become a said legend.
Other than one of the coolest busts ever.
Yeah.
Are there,
that is the coolest bust.
are there undercover game wardens here?
They can't
that
speak
work?
about that.
Yeah, is that out of bound
We
question?
can neither confirm or deny.
There you go. That's pretty good.
Conservation officers, they investigate all wildlife violations in their county. So not only are they out on their daily patrol, but they might have a larger case that they're investigating on the side. And if undercover is needed through the proper chain of communication with our superiors, it can be used. Yes, and we do utilize undercover vehicles from time to time to handle problem areas. Because I mean that green truck,
Yeah.
Kind of sticks out.
It sticks
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody thinks I'm because out
Yeah,
there
a
by
lot
there,
of-
they think I'm Marshall because I got
Yeah.
a green truck with mud tires.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
And a lot of times we'll dress down, wear mossy oak camo.
Yeah,
And,
get hit up.
I like that plug.
Kind of blend
I like
in
that too.
with the.
Get this guy back in here.
So is there I hear rumors that in certain parts of the state, maybe there's drug problems, and some of these problem people are like poaching deer to sell the deer to
Absolutely.
problem
Yeah.
processors that to buy drugs. Is that a statewide problem or?
It's common in South Mississippi anyway. I know of. I'm not sure about these parts, but South Mississippi, a whole deer, $75, and drug, $75 worth of narcotics,
Wow.
essentially. And that's where we see a lot of our headlighting come because they get a little fix, and it keeps them up for several days. And what do they do during the night? They roll around headlighting, and you think about it, what, 2 deer, you got $150 worth of dope. That
Yeah.
goes a long way.
Yeah.
And the processor would be selling the meat on the
The
side. or
processor a
something?
lot of times would be oblivious to it because somebody's just bringing them deer meat. It's getting processed at their facility. They're paying for it, and then said person turns around and sells the processed meat, which is also a violation, for $5 a pound, and makes them $1.50
Wow.
a pound. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so that's got to even be a scary scenario for you guys to approach somebody that may be on drugs.
It's more and more common
Yeah.
every day. It's to get up in a deer stand, checking somebody, and you can smell it, or you can see the paraphernalia sitting there. You don't know. I know fentanyl has become a major issue. So we always glove up now, no matter what we're touching, because all it takes is just the tiniest amounts, and you can be dead. And sad to say, but we all carry Narcan on us now in case something like that does happen. And we had an officer in South Mississippi who actually saved somebody's life on the side of the road by using his Narcan on somebody who was overdosing.
Wow.
So it's something that I know our job is to conserve and enhance the natural resources of the state, but it's something with our police powers, it's something that we're seeing more and more is overdoses, paraphernalia, narcotics use. I was working the river one day, and me and my partner at the time were going down river, and coming around the bend was two gentlemen. They were standing up in their boat. Both of them had a alcoholic beverage tilted back, and they were partying and cheersing until they saw us, and they immediately sat down. And we kind of point them to the sandbar like, we need to talk to y'all. And you would have never known it. During a pat-down search, I felt a sharp needle. Scared me to death. Almost got poked. And that sticks in the back of my mind every day now.
Yeah.
That here I thought was just two fishermen having them a nice cold beverage on the river going fishing. Turns out that it was a lot more. That could have been a lot more dangerous to me as an officer with various diseases that rolls around. And that, but that's something I always think about too.
Yeah. Well, you
Sad
guys,
reality.
Yeah, it is. Well, and there are these rural areas too where y'all work. I'm sure
Absolutely.
that's where they probably go to.
So one other thing that I'd like to touch on: are you guys seeing that that hunters, the way they behave, let's just say at a public duck hunting spot, or do people need to just kind of take a chill about some of this stuff and just realize that being a
Yeah.
little more
Yeah.
mild mannered
I've seen grown men just getting fights, knockdown, dragouts over hunting.
Yeah.
Over a wood duck.
A parking spot.
Yeah, yeah.
Lanny hit me in the
Yeah.
head with a decoy one time.
You
on a
deserve
know.
that completely.
Or the bass fishermen, racing to who can beat,
Yeah.
speed kills on the water. I've done it. I mean, I've been in tournaments, and we got to run 75 in that Ranger to get to that
Won't be
that
first.
hole, But just
We've all
at the end of the
seen
day,
those.
just chill out, just breathe.
I think a lot of it
Just enjoy it.
goes back to how a person, like I said before, how they're taught, how
Yeah.
they're raised
Yeah.
with safety and ethics, being polite, showing courtesy to other people. That carries it a long way into adulthood and how they treat other hunters.
Yeah.
Who's first in a duck hole, or if there's a line at the boat ramp, just like you said, kind of relax, chill out, be courteous to people, enjoy your time there. That's what it's about. Not turn it into a drama session. But that unfortunately does happen. But it goes back to how people are raised. With safety and being ethical with the way you hunt, being polite with the way you hunt and do other things. So, yeah.
We've all seen those public land duck hole blast-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how dangerous they can be. So a duck's not worth somebody's life or your own life.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Lanny, I know you've seen some of that.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen it a lot. Sure have. But just be courteous and hey, you turn the tables on. I mean, hey, Spence and Brooks Tinsley, too. They're better hunting buddies than they're great hunting buddies. And how they met is they got to the hole at the same time, and instead of arguing and fighting, they decided to hunt together and made lifelong friends out of each other. So, that's just one example of a better way to approach it, because it's come on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great example.
That's a great example. Yeah. So, anyways.
Well, we're kind of winding down a little bit, guys, and y'all, I've asked for this great story, and y'all are looking at me like a cow looks at a new gate. I just felt like maybe I've asked too much.
We've heard some good
Alex
stories.
and a new gate. That's pretty good. No doubt about it.
Marshall, you've been around here a long time,
I have.
and we certainly appreciate
Yeah, we do.
what you've done for this area.
Yeah.
And I just can't say it enough, guys. I mean, whether you're listening in Michigan or Florida or whatever, you got officers in your county, in your area, and they're there to help. They're not the enemy, and we need to do what we can to support you guys.
Yeah, and get your kids, start talking about hunter education, get them pumped up about it, get them enrolled in these classes. And hey, and if you're a new hunter, you don't have to be a kid, get out there and get signed up. It's not only you learn a lot in the class.
Yeah, the class is
you really
for
do.
people of all ages, from
Yeah.
experienced people. I encourage parents to sit in and learn, even if they've had the class already, from a young child. That's their first time taking a formal class of outdoor safety and topics. But it's great. It's built for all age groups and all experience levels.
And it's mandatory. You're
mandatory.
not going to get a hunting license unless
Right.
you take this.
It's mandatory.
That's a great
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we had it in 7th grade PE
Yeah, they
class.
taught us. Yeah, we had it in public school, too. Sure
Mine's
did.
so old. Mine's 3 digits.
Whatever.
My hunter safety card.
1001.
I still have mine.
if you're
Yeah.
looking for a
I
class,
I didn't
got
know
it.
you had
check our
taken it.
website.
I
Yeah,
thought
back-
you were grandfathered in.
No, I wanted to go hunting in Colorado when I was 16 or 17, and I had to
You
have
have
it.
to
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Sure did.
I did the boating safety class. Me and Jason did both with our kids, and I was like, I know everything about boating. I grew up on the water. And I learned something real quick. So, there's nothing. You never get through learning. Period.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'd like to add just to say I appreciate y'all's support with conservation with us. I mean, we've actually taught hunter ed in this very room before in years past. I mean, y'all have always been a great supporter of ours, and just want to say thank you for that.
No,
Absolutely.
we're glad. We're
Absolutely.
happy.
Let's do it again.
So why don't we, at this point, we've got a trivia question so the three of y'all can team up. We're going to ask you a trivia question. If y'all get it right, one of our listeners who left a review wins a prize. But we'll ask this question. Y'all can, confer amongst yourselves, and
What are we playing for today?
let's turn it over to Mac.
Mac. What we got, Mac?
All right, so the reviewer's name is Better in Bottomland, so I really
What?
hope y'all get this one right.
Hold up. Man.
Wait.
This has got to be an insider.
So-
We're
I don't
talking
know.
about undercover.
I-
Hold
Yeah.
up.
I'm wondering if that's you just mentioned his name a second ago.
Did I?
He always hashtags that.
Oh, maybe.
So we're playing for a Princeton Tech Light and a Stanley Thermos in Country DNA.
And a case of Uncle Ray's Mossy Oak chips.
We're kind of getting low on the
Yeah,
chips.
Are we getting low on the
Dudley
chips?
is eating.
Have we already eaten all the chips?
I ate a whole bag of barbecue yesterday.
Okay, hold up. We're going to have to get some more chips.
We sent a case out yesterday.
Yeah.
I was gone.
Yeah.
McKellar, and he said all these cases have a couple of bags missing out. of
Dudley.
them.
There.
Hey, they are good.
So this is a good question and a pretty cool history, I think. All right.
But let's say this before we get started. We're going to come to a number.
Yeah.
This is a long question. I
And-
see it
and
over
you-
there on a piece of paper.
And as long
A
as
lot of adjectives.
all we're asking is you get within 50. 50. Okay.
I'm get-
So-
yeah.
yeah. Okay. So everybody's going to learn something.
Okay,
here.
good.
All right. Today, the once majestic bottomland hardwood forest of Mississippi Alluvion Valley had been reduced to scattered and isolated remnants from their former glory. Many of the vast swamps and lowland areas which served as safe havens for thousands of bears throughout Mississippi had been drained and cleared so that the fertile black soils can be used by agriculture. By 1980, more than 80% of the bottomland hardwood forest of Mississippi Alluvion Valley had disappeared. And what became of the black bear population that was once so great as to bring the President of the United States to the Mississippi Delta? Black bears were listed as endangered in Mississippi in 1984. The Louisiana black bear, which is a subspecies that occurs in the southern half of the state, was listed as federally threatened in 1992. There are only small differences in the skull size shape between the American black bear and the North Mississippi, the Louisiana black bear, which is found in the South. MDWF&P biologists currently estimate that the Mississippi black bear population is at blank in the entire state, and that's being generous.
I actually was in a meeting yesterday where a biologist gave me a number, and he said the estimates are it's over 200 now.
Well, that's kind of about where we had this.
Man
thing,
gets the
so-
bell. All right.
Yeah,
Jake
yeah,
in the
yeah.
house.
Good job.
So
Yeah.
better
That's the
in
longest
bottomland.
question in trivia history, by the way.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to teach people a little bit there, though. But that, I was surprised. I thought there'd be more than that.
It's actually a great conservation story.
Yeah.
Bringing it back because I've never seen one in the wild growing up, and now I don't know about y'all, but in Southwest Mississippi we receive calls constantly now, and actually we're starting to have what we call them like home bears. They've made certain areas their home, whereas used to they would travel up from the coast, eat, and go back to the coast or across the Mississippi River and so forth. But now they're actually staying around. So
Setting up a home range.
it's really
That's
cool
cool.
to see.
And from this research, I think that y'all's department would like, if somebody sees one, you'd like them to call in and say, hey, this is what I saw and where I saw it.
Absolutely.
Has there been any sightings in Noxubee County? That y'all aware of?
I can't say I know of one. There could be a sighting or two I'm not aware of, but I do know, if you remember years ago, we had a collared female bear hit on Highway 50.
Oh,
Remember
that's
that?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And had a cub. And a few days later, the cub was sighted near the Tibby area, and I rushed out there, and it was already gone. We couldn't find it, and kind of lost track of it. But that's the most recent confirmed sighting that I can think of off the top of my head.
Oh, good old Tibby.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I'd heard that there were some bears that have come from the Tom Bigby side that were around the Knoxville area. I'd
Maybe
heard
that's
that
what,
there
I was just hearing some kind of murmur
yeah,
about it.
that's
I'm
what
not sure what I was hearing.
hearing that. So.
Which president was it that came down to hunt? Got
Oh,
a famous
please,
nickname.
we got that one.
please.
But your audience might not know.
Our audience will know, Jake. That's Roosevelt.
My favorite president of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My
He
God.
started all this concert.
That's right.
Started it all. That's,
Yeah,
right. That's
he's
why
a-
we're all here, really.
That's
I mean,
right.
without
Yeah.
him, we
Big
wouldn't all be
hunter
here.
himself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You had to like him. Yeah. I
So-
wish.
That was
I'd
what?
like to have met him. you know?
Onward,
Oh, yeah.
Was it Onward, Mississippi?
There's a movie, a
believe
kids movie with him. There's a guy that plays him. It's like Night in the Museum or something like that. It's pretty good.
So look, I would be.
Mark that time code, Richie.
We've got a. I'm looking at Ricky. What about a long-tailed cat, Ricky?
Oh gosh.
You're covered a big portion of the state. Have you ever encountered one or had somebody that you kind of trusted and that said they saw one and it made you question?
Well, first of all, they're not native here. Okay, so
Yeah.
we get the those calls every year. You know, I heard a black panther screaming. We get. We've looked at no telling how many pictures people have on their phone, and when you start looking at the size of this cat that I'm looking at, it's actually just a big black tomcat. You know.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I first went to work in Holmes County, I did see a mountain lion, but there was a guy up the road that had some in a pen, and it was one that had got out. But when it crossed, I mean, it was here to that wall, and I was in the edge of Holmes County where it drops off into the delta, and big brown cat, I mean, crossed in front of my truck, and I'm like, I'm like, did I see that, you know? But that's what it was. You know, it was a guy that had some a few years prior, and he just let them loose. But to answer your question, they're not native here to our state. Is there some out there? Probably, yes. They were probably brought in here and put there. If you do see one, I'll say that.
Yeah.
So he's saying there's a chance. Yeah, that's exactly what he's
Well,
saying.
there was one. I believe a mountain lion killed like 75 miles from the Mississippi River into Arkansas not long ago. So I'm not gonna say never, but
Yeah.
I've never seen one.
I hadn't seen one in Mississippi.
I tell you, you can't go to a hunting club though and hang out and talk, and eventually somebody says, "Yeah, we saw," one," and they'll just be defiant about
yeah,
what they
yeah.
saw.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you know,
I'm
like-
that guy. I know what I saw. I know what I saw.
When I first came on as an officer, I was following a veteran officer, an old crusty veteran officer, highly intelligent, and he pointed down. We were walking through the woods. He said, "Do you know what that hole is? There's a bunch of them." I knew what they were, and I just kind of scared to say anything. I was real quiet and didn't say anything. He leaned over and whispered in my ear. He said, "Son, that's what a hole, a black panther. They'll dig, they'll stick their mouth down in it and scream. That way, the predators around them don't know they can't help it. They have to scream." And I sat back for a second. I said, "I don't know who I just hired on with, and I don't know if that's what I'm doing." I said, "I don't know if he's crazy or if I'm crazy, one, but I'll never forget that. He's since passed, but he was a great mentor to me, and
That's
I
cool.
just always think about that when somebody comes up to me and wants, "I want to show you a picture of this black panther I have." That's the first thought that always comes to my mind.
Now, I have to say mine was not black, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think it was a jaguar.
Marshall,
Not a panther.
were you here when
Jagarundi?
Jaguarundi.
at some point many years ago there was a real lion that got loose around?
Out in the hills or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, were you here then?
I was here.
What in the world was that all about?
The best I can recall, a person claims to have seen a lion on a gas line, I believe, and then the next day it was 2 lions, I believe. It was nothing was ever confirmed, and so I'm not going to say they're wrong, but we couldn't find any evidence, and they've since, if they were here, moved on to greener pastures.
Like a real lion.
Yeah, like
Oh, man.
like a vein.
Like African
A
lion.
Lion King lion.
Yeah.
Oh, it was all over town.
It's in the
it was all
newspaper
over
and-
town. Yeah, everybody was talking about it.
Oh,
That's good
that's
stuff.
good. All right, we're having fun here. Dudley, why don't you, let's do your Ask Dudley.
Okay, well, we can do that. So this is a question I get a lot. My buddy Fancher has been asking about it. Bobby's even been asking about it. Other customers and such.
It was him.
So it's when is the best time to plant wildflower seed? Either you've ordered or collected. So just think about this. Wildflowers grow in the spring and summer, and native grasses, and then they make a seed head in the summer or in the fall, and then they, fall on the ground. So from that standpoint, the natural thing to do would be to plant them in the fall, just like they do naturally, and that works really well. Whether you've collected them or ordered them, however. A lot of people will plant them even as far as into the spring. And so the theory with that is if you plant them earlier in the fall, you're increasing the chance that seed may be predated or it may rot. So whether that be like a earthworm eating it or a bird or it just sitting there too long and getting too wet, that can happen. But if you plant in the spring, you're running the risk of it not stratifying long enough, which some of these seeds may have a harder seed coat that needs to be scarified. Some of them may need stratification, which is the simulation of winter. So you've got to have cool and moist conditions. So the happy medium would be to plant them like in December or January. But in reality, for the most part, probably I would say, mid-October, and this is across the country. You can plant them basically from the fall all the way into the spring, and it will work. You can mix it up. You can do some in the fall, some in the spring, or whatever. But that's it. You know? Just and as you do it, you may have there's different ways to do it, whether you want to disc it up and create a disturbance to make some natural stuff sprout also. There's so many different ways to do it. We all have different soil types, different conditions. But just remind yourself, this is a natural plant that makes a seed head in the summer and fall, and then it falls to the ground and then sprouts later on. So don't overthink it. Plant fall all the way into the spring.
I'm a big fan of fall planting. We always are. So, and I'm going to throw something in there. This is a shameless plug.
Okay.
That I've been through this, trying to establish these things before. And we have developed these plugs, these wildflower plugs and these grass plugs that make it a little bit of a step easier too. So just so there's other options other than seed. We sell seed, but we also sell wildflower plugs and grass plugs too that make it really easy.
They work great, and you see them immediately.
Yeah, you do see them. It is because, like Dudley was saying, a lot of these seeds, as cool as they are, take 30, 60 days to even germinate. So if you don't have either the right prepared conditions, or it's too much competition in the spring, it can be a little difficult. But nonetheless,
yeah, you can also combine the two. I know a lot of folks in the profession when they're installing a new prairie or something. They'll mix the plugs in with the seed.
Yeah, cool.
So
good.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Well, I know some stuff about some outside.
Thank you, Dudley.
Fun stuff.
Guys, we've enjoyed it. Lanny, I know you're fixing to jump in here, so go ahead.
Well, I guess, Marshall, we were talking this before you got started. All we've talked about today is safety and, oh my gosh, be careful, and boat, and tree stand, and guns, and honor, and everything else. Bottom line is, Marshall, you said this best. Hunting and fishing is one of the safest sports you can do. So, just get out there, be sure, and work with your game agencies, go to the hunter education classes. But I think, and I don't know if we can, but it's safer than a lot of the other stuff that your kids and other people, participate in all the time. So I was scared we were kind of getting out there with a bunch of, oh my gosh,
Excellent point.
Yeah, but it is. I've been fortunate. I've been doing it my whole life. I've had a few incidences. I think everybody does, but overall, it's a wonderful way to spend your time with friends and family. So,
It sure is.
Absolutely, it is safe.
Yeah.
I think last year we had 11 hunting incidents. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 11 hunting incidents statewide. And you think about how many
that
people
is
hunt.
huge. Yeah, how many
And,
people, especially in Mississippi, are
You
out
think
there?
about other sports and how many injuries you see.
Yeah.
It's very safe, and we want to encourage everybody nationwide to keep hunting, and if take hunter's ed, think safely,
Buy that hunting license.
Buy that hunting license. Yeah.
and if you need any information in Mississippi on our hunting ed classes, you can go to mdwfp.com and under education, and you can see all our boating and hunting ed classes listed.
Do any of the three of you guys, Marshall, Ricky, Jake, have y'all got anything else we need to cover? Don't want to walk out of here and go, boy, I wish I'd have told him that story, or I wish I'd have mentioned this so Ricky Flint didn't get on me about this or that. But
Yeah, I think we've covered most everything. Like Jake said, just and Lanny, it's a safe sport. Keep that in mind. It's important to be safe, but it's also important to enjoy it with your friends and family. That's who you take hunting. That's who you go outdoors with. Take a child with you and introduce them to the outdoors. We're blessed here to have an abundance of great natural resources, and it's just a great opportunity to, like Lanny said, go out and enjoy it. That's the purpose of it. With conservation in mind, hunters are some of the biggest conservationist groups that we have.
They are.
There's millions of people in the United States right now hitting the woods. It's hunting season. It's a highly anticipated, highly important time of year, and it's important to bring all this together. From youth hunting to hunting safety, but also enjoy it. So that's kind of what I would like to add, I think.
no, well said.
And mentor the next generation.
Yeah.
Because without the next generation, this sport could die off and conservation could take a major hit. So that's
right.
one thing I'd like to encourage is to mentor, and while you're mentoring, show them how to be safe.
Good points. Good
Good
points.
stuff.
All right. Well, you know what? We got the guys. The television show is Tuesday nights. We would like to make sure that everybody's tuning in on that. At one point, I want to do a ride-along television show. Put Richie in one of the game wardens in one night and let him do a ride-along show.
I love watching. What is it, Northwoods Law or
Yeah.
something like that? Man, my kids too. That was great.
Richie, put that on the list of things we want to do. Mac, you're leaving to go on a.
On a,
Richie,
on a
that's
trophy
serious-
Midwest hunt.
Mac, I hope you kill one so big you don't have to lie about him.
I told you, I said shoot the first one. You said I changed my mind.
I know we might have to
Shoot the second one.
find
you
another
said.
spot for Hercules.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute now. Let's
We
not
do
get
need to
this.
dethrone Hercules. That would be awesome.
No, but I was just thinking about the safety side of things. Just to kind of wrap it up, I had a whole lot more concussions playing football than I've had.
That is a great point. Between you and Riley Payne, y'all
Yeah.
are living examples of how safe hunting is.
Absolutely.
That's good. All right. Well, look, before we close, look, it's kind of a little sad note. We lost a listener. We lost a viewer to our television show, but a gentleman named Raymond Arbuckle passed away this past week. He and his son, Rusty, and his grandson, we mentioned them the other day, killed a deer and some bala. But anyway, Mr. Arbuckle passed away, and I just wanted to share our thoughts with the family.
Yeah,
Thanks
prayers
a
for
lot.
the Arbuckle
No doubt
family.
about it.
Sorry to hear that.
Tough deal. So, well, I've really enjoyed this.
Good stuff.
All right, guys. Well, anything, Mac? You got anything? Richie, I was very serious about that idea on the ride along. So, see if we can't make that. We'll see if we can't make. We'll get Ricky Flynn. I bet he could work something out. And let us do a ride along.
could.
Yeah, we can ask. So, all right, Lanny, you got anything?
No, man. I'm just proud to be here.
Say goodbye, Dudley.
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Mac.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.